Hi, I'm Josh Dawes from Playford Games, and today I'm going to show you how to play Cartography. Cartography is a 2 to 4 player social abstract game with territory claiming and tile laying game mechanics. The game is simple to learn but tricky to master, so get ready as we take a closer look at Cartography. You have unearthed the pieces of an ancient Chinese map. As you piece the map together, you are drawn into the turbulent times of the Han Dynasty, where you become one of the legendary warlords, extending and defending your kingdom as you capture lands and build castles. To set up the game, first place 6 of the open land tiles together in the center of the table to form a hexagon. This is the start of the map. Then decide how many land tiles you will be playing. The more tiles you play with, the longer the game will be, so if you're a beginner or just want a short game, you can simply choose to play with as few as 4 land tiles per player. Now there are 2 ways you can play Cartography. Face Up is an open information game that focuses on strategic tile placement and careful planning. This is the version of the game I will show you today. In this version, you sort the land tiles face up into 6 stacks, and each turn you will select any tile from the 6 stacks in order to expand the map. There's also the alternate face down version, which adds in an element of luck and uncertainty. This can level the playing field if you have players with different amounts of experience. If you choose to play this version, count out the number of tiles you need for the game and discard the rest. For example, if you're setting up for a 3-player game and want 6 tiles per player, randomly set aside 18 tiles and place them in a bag or pile and discard the rest. As you start, each player draws 3 tiles and keeps them hidden in their hands. After placing a tile on the map, replenish your hand by drawing a new tile from the pile or bag. Once your tiles are set, you're ready to play. Each player now takes all of the colored discs that represent his or her castles. The game will be played in 2 phases. During the first phase, you'll be creating land, claiming land, and capturing castles. Once the last land tile has been placed, you will no longer be creating land, but continue claiming land and capturing castles until each player passes consecutively and the game ends. Orange will go first, followed by blue, and then black. During each turn, a player must first extend the map in any direction by choosing a land tile from any stack and adding it to the board so that all adjacent edges match. Corners do not need to match. After placing a land tile, a player may choose to claim any unoccupied hill on the map by placing a castle on the hill, as long as that castle has an open adjacent hill after being placed. In this case, Orange places his castle on the open tile next to the river tile he just placed. The river separates the 2 hills on this tile, so they are not considered adjacent. Therefore, Orange cannot place on this hill because it is enclosed by the river and the edge of the board with no open adjacent hill. The other players then place their land tiles and their blue and black castles on their turns. On Orange's next turn, he places a castle on a hill adjacent to his first castle, forming a castle group. Once a castle group is formed, they share the same open adjacent hills and can become very powerful as a group. In this example, when this castle is placed here, it joins the castle group and now shares this open adjacent hill. So what's a castle group? A castle group is a continuous chain of castles of the same color that are adjacent to one another. Once a castle group is formed, they share the same open adjacent hill or hills. Let's take a closer look at how they work. In this example, it is Blue's turn to play. Blue chooses to play on the open hill between Blue and Orange. Even though this hill does not have any open adjacent hills, the Blue castle becomes part of the castle group, which has these 2 open adjacent hills, so it is still a legal move. If, at any point, a player manages to place a castle in the only open adjacent hill of an opponent, he surrounds the opponent and captures that castle or castle group. These castles are removed from the board and become points for the capturing player. Remember, you can place a castle on any open hill as long as that castle or castle group has an open adjacent hill after being placed. In this case, it is Black's turn, and although this open hill does not have any open adjacent hills, Once black places his castle, orange, having no open adjacent hills left, has his castle group captured and removed from the board, and there is now an open hill next to the castle black played. To avoid the possibility of indefinite repetition, once all land tiles have been placed, a castle may not be played on a hill if it repeats a previous game state. For instance, here orange places his castle at the top of the board to capture the blue castle. It is now blue's turn, but he cannot place a new castle where it was before in order to capture the orange castle that was just played. Each player must place a land tile on his or her turn until all these tiles have been played. A player may choose to pass when it is time to place a castle though. Typically this will happen later in the game. For example, in this scenario, blue must pass because he has nowhere to place a castle. There are no open adjacent hills, and there are no opposing castles that can be captured. Once each player passes consecutively, the game is over. At this point, each player counts up the number of his castles on the board and adds them to the number of castles he captured from the other players. The player with the highest total wins. That's all for today. Make sure to check out Playford's site for more videos and enjoy cartography.